Yeah, I posted it on StreamYard. So,
Oh, is it
but,
earlier? Maybe. Let me see if maybe it's further.
yeah, I try to do it at least 3 days out. So
That's right. I remember
that people
seeing
get the notifications. With that being said, we're live, gentlemen. Let me
Woo!
go ahead and start off by welcoming some of the people that are joining us tonight. Sam, why are we always yelling? Thank you for being here. Shady Grady, Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Jay Rock Dust Stuff, Jay, thank you so much. Empire of Dirt Aquariums, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Linda, thank you for coming in. Jody P, thank you. And let's see. Oh, Ed's Aquatics and Exotics. Ed, thanks for coming in tonight. Uncle Smiley, how you doing, Smiley? Thank you so much. Emma, thank you for joining us. Christine, Henry, Jim Fish, thank you guys for coming in tonight. Yeah, tonight we have, as you guys are seeing now, we have Jeremy here from Aquarium Domain, and I'm also joined by Aquafunk. And the reason we invited Jeremy on today is because we kind of, Funk and I have been talking about filtration, and when we started talking about that, Jeremy came up, his channel came up, and about how the it's, in my opinion, it almost seems that the bigger the aquarium, the simpler the filtration seems to be.
Yeah, like
it's the concept of how you set it up just seems a lot simpler than what you see people do with smaller aquariums. And that was kind of the reason why we have Jeremy here, because he's kind of gone through the whole gamut of the different types of filter systems as his tanks have grown.
Yeah.
And go with the no replacement for displacement theory, you know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I actually got, so a lot of people probably heard me talk about my 280 that I have to reseal, and I don't really want to reseal it. And then I started thinking to myself, hold up, wait, that's 5 panels. That's 5 panels of glass. That's 5 potential fish tanks that I can make. And so I started looking, on DIY plywood and plywood aquariums and stuff, and all the different ways people do them. And I came across Aquarium. I mean, of course I've seen them before, but like really, really just pinpointing his builds. And I started having like so many questions. I think the first one that he built that really had me really kind of like curious was it 310, the square one?
Oh yeah, 315, but yeah.
315, yeah. Is that the first bog filter aquarium you've made it together? It's the first one I came across.
Yeah. I kind of always did it in the sumps before, so.
But it was inclusive in the tank.
Yeah. It was the first one.
Yeah, and
I can't remember if I built that before or after the 4500, but one of those.
No, it was before. Yeah, that's why when I saw you on that live, I was like, man, I can't see this guy again. I've been watching him for 2 days straight, but the idea of filtration has always been big on me. I got a couple of rules that I like to follow. Is I love air in my aquariums, and I love a lot of beneficial bacteria in my aquariums. In the filter system, whether it's on the tank, in the dirt, whatever. It is what it is, to each their own. But for me, I like it. I like the water getting passed through forcefully all that beneficial bacteria. I know it's everywhere, but I like it makes me feel better inside. And I guess that's all that matters, right? Whatever makes you feel better in your tanks.
Yeah, real quick, just for the internal, like the reason doing that is part of it is the way it works. Like when you do a sump and you can set it up in a similar fashion, they are very similar in nature to how they operate. Not exactly the same, but similar. But one of the reasons I wanted to move to the internals is as I get older, like the 3,000 gallons got that 500 gallon, 20-foot long sump under there. Crawling around down there and doing maintenance on that, it's getting a little old, I mean, it's like I like these because I got a big clean out tube. I just shove my water down there. Wherever the water lands outside, the plants grow like crazy, and you're done.
And that's what got me, because I don't want to put nothing on the floor neither. Like I'm tired of my knees busted, my back sucks, my hip sucks. And I'm like, man, I don't want to go underneath it. Like, that's the one reason I never like canister filters. I don't like climbing underneath my tank in that little closet of a cabinet to get it out and do all the stuff. And then, you know, when I started doing these internal filters where the filters are like basically a sump in the back, I was like, oh, this is so much easier. Everybody else's DIY tanks use some type of external filter. I don't really see any. You're probably the only DIY tank I've ever seen where they've incorporated the filter system into the build.
You know where you see it a lot is in ponds.
Ponds.
Formal ponds.
Yeah.
Like in England, they like to do a lot of formal ponds, and they'll do it just like this.
Yeah.
They'll, like, the back part of the pond, be the filter, and it'll go up over and come down. You know, but in the same box, right? They'll just partition that same thing. You know.
But I did have a couple of questions as I was watching. Did you have anything to say about Mexicali before?
No. There was a question that was asked about which is the best, but that's what we were just talking before we went live. It all depends the application that you're trying to do. I've always said when it comes to filters, it's ultimately what you're trying to do. If you're trying to breed fish and you want the fry to survive, I probably wouldn't recommend a canister. It'd probably be a sponge filter, which, you know, really has less of a possibility of killing your fry. But if you're doing an aquascape, then a sponge filter might be a sore thumb. So you might want to go with something that's external, not intrusive, you know, like a hang on the back or a canister filter, something that you can hide relatively easy. So at the end of the day, it's really what your application is. And as far as mechanical that'll remove particulates, anything that has that goes from coarse to fine, whether it's like in Jeremy's case where he's using rocks, gravel, and sand, or you're using sponges that go from coarse to medium to fine, or on the hang-back where people use polyfill, which is a lot easier to do. So to say that there's one specific one that's better than others, it's more application based than anything else.
I would say also a huge factor is what's in the aquarium. Like how, so for example, on a marine aquarium, in the marine environment, anaerobic bacteria or denitrifying bacteria is much easier to grow than in freshwater, and you have much less physical. You don't have wood in there and plants. You don't have a lot of breakdown of organic material. Mm-hmm. So between live rock and ceramic material, you can achieve a ton of denitrification. It's massive, you know. The macroalgae barely takes out any nitrate at all. It does filter and everything, but you could get a lot with that. But in the freshwater environment, like for example, my 600 Asian jungle and that 750, there's so much wood and plants in there, constantly breaking down, that it overwhelmed my sump, my normal setup, which is also the 220 discus. It's why I added the settling chamber to it. And that's made a huge difference because it's taking all that gunk and getting it down there, and I can service it from there rather than passing it through my whole filter. So the rest of my filter is staying perfect. Settling chamber is taking all those big solids out, just like a koi pond. Koi are horrendous for physical solids. You know, there's a ton of that. So settling chambers are super important. So if you've got a tank, let's just say freshwater tank, if you've got a ton of wood, ton of plants, ton of organics, you know, then you're going to have a different filter setup than if you have, say, a freshwater tank with that's bare bottom and has fake plants or something like that. Minimal organics, you get a whole different filter setup and get a good result. You know, so
So I noticed you don't use polyfill, anything like that, and I was like, I wonder if he has issue because you're what 4500. That's got a lot of wood, driftwood, and stuff like that in it. I have a tank, and these tanks, this driftwood breaks down, and I start seeing small particles where all I have to do is put in the polyfill and clear that up. But that fine layer of sand, that nullifies all that debris.
The upflow filter does. So at the bottom of the upflow filter, you have a big standoff, you know, about a foot.
Yeah.
And then you have all that aggregate. So it's actually one of the reasons you use very smooth rocks for that. A lot of people say, why don't you use lava rock? But the problem with lava rock is it the organic gets stuck in it. You know, you want it to push up against it, and then when you cut power to the pumps, because you're pushing in a ton of water, it's going like this all the time. But when you cut the pumps off, you go away for an hour, all that stuff settles down, and you pump it out. You know, so it is like when I pump out the 4,500 gallon filter. There's like even like little sticks, and I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. There's tons of solids down there. So it is absolutely taking care of that. Yeah.
I was actually wondering about that too, like the lava rock and all the stuff that the byproduct basically that gets caught up in the rocks. I was like, okay, so he's not using lava rock. I would imagine that would have been the first thing he did, but he's not. There's got to be a reason for it. And I was like, maybe it catches too much and he can't get it out. Because in my mind, when I first saw you making it, I was like, oh, some way, somehow, he's going to have, like, put them in bags or containers so he could take it out and clean. And I was like, no, he's just dumping it in there all willy-nilly. So I was like, was he going to have to shovel that stuff out to clean it? I was really confused. So, like, the whole time I'm watching, I was like, how the hell is he going to end up? And then, you know, putting the little chambers to drop the pumps, and I was like, oh, okay. He's just going to basically flush it. It's like a flush system.
Yeah, if you were really dirty, you could run water from the top as you're flushing from the bottom. It would work, but you got a lot of. The thing is, the sediment can't get that high up really. So the water is coming down through all that fine sediment. By the time you get to those big river jacks, there's huge cavities in there. So any water is going to push stuff down. But the reality of it is inside a house like this, you don't really have to do that. Like. A great example is Ohio Fish Rescue has a big pond in the backyard, and they have a Upflow wetland filter that Aquascape's built for them. And that thing, because it's outside, it has all those leaves, all that everything, you know, it gets super, you know, inundated with organics, you know, it's just pummeled with it. So when you see them clean it, it's hardcore, right? But it's just getting probably 1,000 times more organics than like mine is getting because you know, it's inside, right? There's nothing falling into it or anything.
Yeah. So that and then I mean, even with the 4,500, you don't have pre-filters on those pumps on the opposite side.
No. I want as much stuff to go in there as possible.
Yeah.
I even cut out a bunch of the fins on the guards. I want just enough guard to keep the fish out, but I want to suck up anything else. I want to go into the bottom of there. So
yeah. So I was studying. I was like, okay, I can see all the problems arising. I'm curious if I was just like overthinking it or, you know, because I've never seen a filter like that. I mean, I've heard of it in theory. I mean, even with ponds, I've never seen one as big as your 4,500, a pond filter that big. But I haven't been around huge ponds either. So, I mean,
that's roughly 500 gallons of filter right there.
Yeah.
Box, you know, but you get in the pond world, that's nothing, you know.
Yeah. I've never seen a pond that big.
The ponds are a lot bigger too. It's all scaled, right? Like if I made a 10,000 gallon filter for a 4,500 gallon pond, you know, tank.
Well, people that have ponds that big don't let me in the backyard, so I don't know. Get off my lawn! And call the police on you. I just wanted to see your filter, lady. 3 a.m.
So the cops would go buy. They buy that for sure.
Yeah, with my phone light on. I'm just checking out the filter system. I don't see what the problem is. Yeah, I'm in jail. But you said on the 4,500 that people were asking you if that was going to be enough filtration. You said it's 500 gallons. I told you earlier that I was thinking about doing like itty bitty mini bogs on these tanks. Is there a mathematical equation?
There is, and both with filtering, like what I learned a lot about filtration was from water treatment plants. All the premise behind it, the ideas behind it are all the same. But there are certainly calculations, and they do a lot of the same stuff. You look at a water filtration plant, it just looks like a giant aquarium filter, right? Because it's just filtering, right? You know, they have solids, right? The first thing they do is they have settling chamber for solids, and then the second thing they do is just like we do. You want to have aerobic bacteria, right? You want to break down toxic stuff, so they super saturate that. Then they always have a form of a lazy river, and what is that? That's high contact time.
Yeah,
contact time with what? Some sort of ceramic material that has denitrifying bacteria, because at that point you created nitrate, right? and then you come out the back end, and then now they're just going to recondition the water. So maybe you're going to aerate it or whatever, you know. Like for example, for me, the Upflow filter, right, the bottom of it, sediment. The first layer, super oxygenated water, you know, lots of gravel, aerobic bacteria. The next few layers, oxygen's been depleted. But you've converted stuff to nitrate. Now you got a bunch of anaerobic bacteria that are munching nitrate, and then it flows up to the top, comes back as a river, rippling that surface of the water. So it's re-aerating the water, the clean water, and returning it back to the tank. Exact same principle. And so it just comes down to form factor, like which form factor would make the most sense. Where do you want to put your effort? Like I said, like I got some tanks where the settling chamber is money. You can just have a settling chamber and plants, and you would be gold. You don't need anything else, you know.
Now you say settling. You saying settling chamber? Is that what you're talking about? Where you have the moving bed? Is that what you're talking about? A settling chamber?
No, that's a form of aerobic. I mean,
you don't have a pre-filter on that either.
No, it's the same thing. I want everything going into the chamber. Like, there's not a single design I have where I want anything to capture it inside the tank and hold it. Right there.
It's a purpose. You do it on purpose.
Yeah. Okay. None of my designs want that to happen. You know.
Oh. All right. So when you say a settling, you're just talking about a spot where everything settles.
Yeah, something that's very tall, right? Preferably, ideally, if it was round and had a cone at the bottom, you know, is the best. Yeah. But anyway, anything tall, I just use trash cans and stuff. I plumb pipes in the top. Water drains down, goes into the bottom, and then I just turn the pipes at the bottom, and it just creates a slow spiral like that. And what that does is the physical solids slowly go to the bottom. You just don't want it blasting the bottom, or you keep turning everything up again.
Yeah, so the moving bit. Yeah.
No centrifugal force. Stuff goes down. The water comes up. Then at the top, I have floating biomedia, just to block solids, and then the water goes through into the sump, and then the rest of the sump is just plants for me. So.
Yeah, I just noticed when I was watching, I was like, he don't use no fine pre-filtration at all on anything that I saw.
Yeah, you could either I mean, what does a filter floss do? It catches something, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Upflow and the settling chamber do. They catch things at the bottom. Just a different way to do it. Cheaper.
Yeah,
right?
Dude, I'm a fan. You don't have to buy nothing for your to maintenance your tanks. I'm a fan. Like I was like, yeah, you don't have to buy. I'm cheap.
But here's the thing though. Like let's say you got a beautiful 150 gallon tank in your living room. You're not doing the filtration I'm doing. It doesn't make sense there, you know. It's crazy, right? It would be horrible looking, you know. Or the saltwater guys, they do it, right? Like you see the wetlands and the chamber and stuff. They have all that equipment under there, but you're going to pay a lot of money to scale it down so that it can fit in a cabinet and still be pretty, you know. Yeah. Or you're probably going to use some other filter that's just more applicable for the environment it's in. You know, it's not it's 150 gallons, it's not 4,500. It's in my living room. It's not in my fish basement, you know. So that would be the reason, you know, you would like if somebody was setting up a 150 in the living room and they asked me for advice on filtration, I'm not going to go like, dude, we're going to build an Upflow filter with this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, get a canister or whatever, you know what I mean?
So yeah, June, I actually a big fan of underground filters. I've used them a bunch of times, but I've always wondered how come those bog filters, they make them a lot in Asia. I'm calling them a bog filter, but they're chambered. They go on the top of the tanks, and I was like, nobody really does that in the States. It's real big in Asia, where they have them on the top. I've never really seen it done in the States.
You get back to the koi pond thing. You go to Britain, a ton of koi ponds have those type of overhead.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm talking about like just for tanks, for aquariums in the home.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at like fish, like seagrass farms or something where they're breeding fish, they'll have that kind of stuff all day long, you know, because at scale, right? It's one thing if you got a single tank and you're changing filter pads or something, it's not a big deal. But anything at a larger scale, that doesn't scale, right? It becomes cost prohibitive. And so these other techniques are much more efficient, you know. Any filters you don't like? Or you just don't like them at all? I'm like a lot of people with the sponge filter because it's in the tank and it's ugly. Like, If it was like in a, like, you have a lot of saltwater tanks where there's a standoff in the back and the filtration, but it's all in one,
Yeah.
You get something like that, and you shove a sponge filter in the back of it, I'd be okay with it, but it wouldn't work properly, right? Because its contact area would be very messed up. But which they changed the factor. They put a rectangular sponge and they have it come down through it, But just for aesthetics, the sponge filter,
Yeah, it took me a long time. I love sponge filters now because when I started breeding, I realized, sponge filters was awesome for that. The maintenance on them, honestly, I don't know what my maintenance on sponge filters is very far. The intervals are very wide. Like it's a long time before when I see the bubbles start slowing down, that's when I maintenance that. But I've grown to like them because of the simplicity and the fact that I don't have to buy anything,
Also, like the tanks I was talking about before, we have a lot of wood and a lot of plants.
Yeah,
it's going to be horrible in that environment. It can't handle all those physical organics. It's either going to clog up super fast, or it's just not.
Yeah,
it's not going to be able to pull them in. You'd have to have a bunch of them and everything. So
yeah, especially that fine stuff.
Yeah.
So sponge filters is kind of
So.
Yeah. So sponge filters is not high on your list, huh?
Not for my use cases, but
You have any canisters? I hate canisters. I can't stand canisters.
Well, basically, what was the evolution? At what point did you decide I need to start making my own filtration system?
Yeah.
There was a period of time where I only kept salt water for about, I don't know, like 13 years or so. And I just did everything with sumps and refugiums. And then when I started keeping fresh water out, also, again, I just kept using those techniques, like Skipper can attest to this. I have a mountain of FX6s in my shed that I don't use, don't want, don't like them. I find them to be tedious. They work, right? Which is why they're tedious. If you have a big tank, you got to have a bunch of them, right? And then if you have a bunch of them and they're working, you got to be picking those things up, dragging them off somewhere to clean them. Just like I don't really like that. I like I take a CJ Ultra Zero, break off the thing on the bottom that prevents the crap from getting in there, and just throw that in there and pump it out. I got 5 acres. It's no problem for me just to pump it outside. It's no problem. And actually, one thing I was going to mention earlier, like some people have caught on to it, some people haven't, but on the Shark Tank, the 3,000 gallon Shark Tank, so it's got that 500 gallon sump underneath it, and I don't like dealing with that so much. So what I've done is I built a 1,000 gallon estuary behind it, right? And so the estuary is going to be where all of the live rock, plants, and macroalgae is. Anything that needs attending, is there. And the only thing that's going to be in the sump now is a metric S-ton of ceramic material. It's just nothing but denitrification. So at the front of it, I take that back. Where all the water comes in, I do have filter pads there to block anything. The rest of it is just forever material. All the business end is now in the 1,000 gallon, which is easy to work on because I can do it standing up, just like any of these tanks. I don't have
to that one in the back, behind the back.
Yeah,
it's like
so now all I got to do is change one filter pad every once in a while in that front chamber, and that's it. Then I don't have to touch the rest of it, and it's right at the end by the door, so it's very convenient. Just to take it out.
Yeah, Jake, way to be subtle, brother. He was trying to be respectful. You messed it up. Jake just wanted everybody to know what the S stood for.
Trying to respect
out of the canisters. The problem I have with canisters is that, in my case, I tend to forget about them. I don't want to deal with them, and I let them go to the point where you have to do something about it because there's no more water coming out of that thing, and by that point, it is.
You open that. Yeah, you open that up.
Opinion, a canister's claim to fame is being quiet and putting a lot of filtration in a small package that you can put like underneath the the cabinet. But I don't need that, so that's it doesn't fit my use case.
Yeah,
that's its and it's it doesn't hang off the side. It's not unsightly, right?
That's one thing that's the only reason why I would use a canister, because I hate my tanks in the living room. I hate that gap between the tank and the wall. where hang on the back would. So I hate it. So I would use a canister or some type of overflow system.
You see the guys that get the black tubing and they're real good with the, keeping that tubing tight and clean and everything. Like these ADA guys. I mean, it looks like nothing's on there, and it's all this under there. So again, all day long, if I'm helping somebody set up a fish tank in their formal living room, whatever, I'm going to go with a canister, right? But for me, so it's just,
when I did businesses like maintenance, and I would set up a tank on a business because they're paying for it, they want pretty, canister all the time, canister.
You see a ton on the saltwater side. You see where they have a filter room behind the tank. The tank in the room, they punch a hole through the wall and there's a closet or something. They do all that there. That's my style, right? Like if I were doing a tank upstairs, I would try to achieve that if I could,
Yeah, I plan on whenever I do buy a house, I think for the purposes of space, of being able to keep as much space as possible, and the fact that I live in Florida, and really you can get away with a lot of stuff living out here in Florida. You can have your filters outside, run them through the, all you have to do is put tarp over them to keep them warm.
You see that
in the
all the time
wintertime.
in California, they put their filters outside.
Yeah, like just pop a hole through the wall and have a big sump type filter, bog type filter outside. Because out here, I know a lot of people complain about how much they cost, but those 275 gallon IBS tanks,
Totes,
out here in Florida, you get them all day for $75. 275 gallons, $75 all day long.
Yeah, even brand new, they're like 150 or something, right? They're not that bad.
I don't know. Some people have said that they weigh more wherever they live at. I don't know why.
You ever get them on Uline? So I mean, I've seen them before. They're not that expensive.
On Uniline?
Uline, like the commercial.
275.
Yeah. They have those. They have other ones that are even cooler. They're like prettier, size, because those have the metal cage, right? You're talking about the metal cage.
With the metal cage. Yeah.
Nowadays they make some giant poly foam ones that are like thick, and they come in all different sizes and everything, and they come in different colors. They're
they even have those fiberglass ones now with a viewing panel on them that you could turn into a big old sump.
The blue
that Temu?
Blue ones with the panel in the front,
on Temu. Yeah. I wouldn't mind using those. I just couldn't have them on the floor. I don't like having to bend down to look at fish. I'm not a big fan of people having ponds. Like if I was to have a pond, it would have to have a viewing glass, like raised up high and with a viewing glass. I don't like looking at the tops of fish. I like seeing the sideways of them.
If you're looking at koi or sturgeon or something, top down is great,
Yeah.
But most everything else, it's not,
Yeah, even the koi, I would want to have. They do it in Europe a lot. I know there's number one ideas. Have you ever you seen that where they make you got some little dude out there, he's making a brick fish tank out a brick pond. No words.
Like Thailand or something.
Yeah, no words. And they always have a viewing panel, and I'm like, I would really love to try that one day. Just get me a bunch of bricks and some mortar and find me a piece of glass and try that. I mean, maybe not, maybe a 200 gallon, at first, just to see, because they seem to do it real quick. Just one guy by himself, just
it's time lapse.
But a little magic of editing going on there.
Yeah. But even it's always one guy, and you could tell he's done it a lot. Like a lot.
What they never show is how they seal the interior of those things, because
they don't.
They have to, because the water will leach through the cement.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I've always wondered. Like, because they paint it weird colors. They have very minimum filtration too. Like I look at the filtration that they put in them jokers, and I'm like, that's not enough for those koi. Like you have some big koi you got going in there, and they have maybe like a gallon's worth of filter media in a 300 gallon pond. I'm like, oh no.
But those are made for video purposes only, not for long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I've watched a bunch of them, and I would put money that a couple of them were made on the exact same spot. Like I was like, I remember that wall. Like he built another one up against that wall. Now he's building this one. What did they do?
Yeah, they're probably
Just
little
bust it down?
sets.
Yeah,
They're
they
sets.
busted down. I still want to try it. I would put
The
Pond
paint
Shield on
conceal
it. Yeah, Pond Shield makes a paint for that.
But I
pond.
guess he's just saying like regular paint would seal it.
I mean, you could even just use plaster. It would hold water for a while, not for a few days. You know?
Yeah, because your pools, they don't have any sort of lining, right? It's just plaster in them.
Well, it's like a gunite or something, some kind of a mixture they spray on there, but that holds water. You know, they paint it or tile it to make it look good. You know, actually, Brian Barczyk channel, they're starting up the Reptarium Aquarium thing.
Yeah,
those tanks they did, that's what they did is plaster them. The paint they put on, I believe, is just for aesthetics.
It says they use concrete paint. That might be something different. I'm not familiar with it. Oil based.
So what was your very first filter? Like you start out with like a 10-gallon with a hang on the back?
Oh man, my first filter was that little clear box where you put the
yes,
the box filters, the acrylic box filters,
carbon in the bottom and fluff in the top, and then
there
was air.
But you know what? I meet guys that have been doing it a long time who have access to other types of filtration, still would rather use that.
Well, you see, again, it's all for application because if you're if you're using bare bottoms breeding tanks for maximizing the yield of the fry, you want stuff that's not gonna destroy your fry. So it'll probably be a sponge filter or one of those little box filters with polyfill in it. And that's
for the application, that's better, right? Not going to kill fry. All you really care about in that environment is biological filtration. You don't really care about mechanical or chemical. You're changing a lot of water because that's what makes fish grow fast, because many fish species will secrete hormones, and they use that as a method to figure out how densely populated they are in their environment. And we all know that 10 gallons with 500 fry is densely populated. You know, you want to keep that water flowing through. So
I made a filter out of one of these.
Yeah, you add a power head to it and make a filter.
No, not even. All I did was take a needle and I put it on a lighter and just poke holes on the bottom of it. Then I took a air stone, poured it in the top, and stopped it about right here, and just put gravel in there, and I just put it in the tank. And the tank stood so clear, like it was so. I had gamboozis and I got fish from outside. That's when I first started that fall. I was like, I'm gonna try that fall the fish thing, but I ain't spending money on a new tank. So I just grabbed stuff I found literally stuff from outside. Like I took a shovel into the water, and put it in a bucket, threw it in there. It took a while, but it cleared up. I didn't put sand in it. Those
predatory fins, when they go overseas to Asia, the breeders and stuff, they have like tiled tanks. And you look at the filtration, it's just massive amounts of biological, because they don't really care about anything else, because they're just flushing water through it. 24/7. You know. Yeah,
it's just constant, like a constant in and out. Are you talking about the ones where they have the water source in the river or lake outside?
There was it was in the city. It was like they were breeding stingrays and everything.
Yeah,
but their water's dirt cheap, and they're just pushing it through nonstop, and they basically just had a ton of biological, you know, because there's a heavy biofish load because of those fish, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of it they don't care about, you know, because it's not needed. You know, there's no sediment in there because at the bottom of the tank is tile, and all they need is water movement and water replacement and biological. And they're done, you know. Their environment is cheap, you know.
I saw a video. It was in Asia, and they had a facility that was close to the water. It's some type of water source. The water was actually dark. And they pretty much threw a pump in the main water source outside and just brought water in and just went through the tanks and just went right back into the river or whatever it was. But it was no filtration at all. It was the river water just bypass through the tanks, and that's what they had for the fish.
Yeah, well, when I lived in Florida, we had the Anclo River right behind my house, and I had
Where in Florida?
It's Holiday. It's right up north of Tampa, like Land O'Lakes, that area.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know people that live in Land O'Lakes that did that. They pump water from a creek. They pump water and then they pump it right back out. And he's like, "Shh, don't tell nobody," because you can't do that in Florida. But
I had the same fish in the pond that were living in the river. They were from the river. I just brought
so, yeah.
That's all it did was just pump up there 24/7.
Not this guy. This guy, he was breeding Central American cichlids. Shh, don't tell nobody. I'm like, all right. But
everything's already in there anyways, man.
Yeah.
There was tons of Mayans and Oscars and peacock bass.
Yeah. I caught Mayans. I got a little tilapia here that I got from the every once in a while I'll get bored. I'll go out, there's a little ditch and I got a tilapia and some other type of, it's a cichlid. I just don't know what type of cichlid it is. I'm waiting till it grows out to figure out what it is. It's little right now. It's like the size of a little tiger barb, but it has no markings on it whatsoever. So I have no idea what it is.
From my time in Florida, I remember as much as people say Oscars, for every Oscar, there was 10 Mayan cichlids out there. Those guys were.
Yeah, they were everywhere. Mayans, jewels. There was a lot of, when I lived in Tampa, I caught about 30 jewels in 5 minutes with the metal cage, the round cage metal thing. Put some dog food in it, throw it in a retaining pond, and pulled up like 30 jewels. Mayan cichlids. Black acaras are pretty prevalent. I live in central Lakeland. You get a lot of those. I've seen African cichlids. Well, I've seen yellows, and I was like, "Oh, that's got to be African." I can't think of anything else it would be as yellow as it was, but that was because it was close to a breeder farm.
It gets really crazy when you get down near Miami, that area, Homestead.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah, that's where they got the clown knives and stuff.
Yeah,
I would love to have
from flooding from storms, right? That they overfill the lakes that they're breeding them in, and they kind of get in the waterway, or are they purposely released?
Some of them are that way. I think a lot of people are they get tired of their tank, they take them down, local waterway, and cut them loose.
The clown knife, I think that's probably one that someone released. I think the Mayans were actually brought in by the state for whatever purposes. See, sometimes they'll do that. They'll send you the state will or the city will actually put invasive species in the water for a purpose, and then it gets out of control. Because I asked about the jewels, because there's a lot of jewels out here, and some guy who lived in Tampa ever since he was little, his daddy lived in Tampa, it was like generations. He said that at one point that the city, if you had a retaining pond, the city was making you put anti-mosquito fish in there, to help the mosquito population, because you were creating a perfect, breeding ground. So they said you could put jewels in there, and now jewels are everywhere.
Living in Lakeland, I know you know about love bugs. We know where they came from.
Oh God, I hate them. Yeah, love bugs. They're big. All they do is get in a grill of your cars. I hate love bugs.
Your car is just covered in that for 2 months. It's just...
And when they get on me, I get really upset because I was like, "Ew, I got bugs doing it on my arm right now," and it's just very irritating.
So love bugs. I'm not familiar with those.
The Monster Fish Keepers forums,
nah.
They used to organize a fishing trip, and we used to go down there to around Miami and everything, and we would go fishing and all this stuff, and this was back in the late 90s, and the density of fish was insane. You could fish these canals, and there would be tens of thousands of Jack Dempseys or Managuente, whatever, just massive numbers of them, And that was back then. I can't even imagine what it's like now.
Love bugs. The University of Miami, their science department, they decided they was gonna figure out a way to make a bug that will eat mosquitoes because Florida is so terrible with mosquitoes, and they created this bug, and in the lab, it ate mosquitoes.
Are these
Yeah, it's two of them. That's how you see them. Always two of them, butt to butt. That's all. That's you. If you ever see one by itself, it's very, very rare. You always see them butt to butt. So the University of Miami made this bug, and I don't know what they was called before, but in the lab they killed and ate mosquitoes. When they let them out into the wild, all they did was hump and that's all they did. You see how they're back to back like that? You only see them like that, and they'll be on the grill of your car, and they'll mess up your car.
Roadways, they just live on roadways and just scratch your car. That's all.
And they don't even eat mosquitoes in the wild. No,
they can't because they're stuck together. They can't fly straight, so they always are flying into you. You know, it's like dude. It's like certain times a year. Every car is complete. Their front. If you are driving on what's that one that goes north and south, that road 75.
Your car is just gonna be wrecked because it's going to have nothing but love bug juice all over the front of it.
Yep.
I heard if you put like soap, dishwashing soap, because it messes up the paint. Like to wash dishes, like Joy or Dawn or something like that. You put it on the front, it'll keep your paint from getting ruined by all their juices.
You want to know the worst case scenario is when I lived there, one of my vehicles was a Jeep Wrangler.
Oh, man.
It was a love bug smashing machine, man.
Yeah.
You'll wash it off. You scraped it off. You you'd use for snow or something and just scrape them off.
Yeah. Look up cars with love bugs on it. You'll see. Just type in love bugs on, cars with love bugs smashed all over them. And I've actually had them like talk while one came and it got in my mouth, and I was like, ugh! Because there was two bugs doing it in my mouth. And I was upset. Like, I was just unconsolable for about a half an hour. It's like, just leave me alone. Don't talk to me. Nobody talk to me. I've been violated.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. Look at this guy down here.
I lived there for about 2 months, and then I called up the company to build a giant lanai pool cage thing, the screen. Basically like 80% of my backyard was screened in.
Yeah. I mean, but you got to though. I mean, with all the sun alone will tear people's skin up. You got people out there sunbathing, but yeah, if I had an outdoor pool, I would definitely have to have that screened in thing.
Well, the thing is, I didn't have a pool. I just had them build it like there was a pool, like humongous, but no pool.
No pool, just a screen.
I built a koi pond inside there and everything, but to have usable outdoor space, you had to screen it in,
Yeah,
and baby snakes and lizards, but I had my cat was an assassin, so he was good to go on that.
Yeah, I don't mind the snakes and the lizards. Actually, the frogs, snakes, and lizards, it's these palmetto bugs. So for those of you who don't know what a palmetto bug, it's a fancy way of saying big ass roach. I came to Florida and they was like, oh, you gotta be careful with the palmetto bugs. I said, what's that? And he showed it to me. I said, that's a roach, man. He said, no, it's a palmetto bug. I said, I don't care how you fancy it up, man. It's a damn roach. It's a big ass roach is what it is. And them jokers is nasty. Luckily,
if you ever want to find a snake, just go shake a palmetto bush. One will come out,
Yeah. I got bit by a coral snake out here in 2008. I almost died.
Through the 6 years I lived there, I saw so many like snakes like every damn day. The problem is I live around the water, so there was copperheads, water moccasins, pink rattlesnakes. I mean, I was amazed that more people there don't get killed by the snakes.
In fact, when I got bit by that snake and had to go to the ER or the emergency room or the doctors, they was all amazed. They was like, oh, someone got bit by a poisonous snake. Who is it? Like, I'd have people just walking by the room and like, that's the guy. And they keep walking like, that's him, And I was like, what? Huh?
My cat was out in Lanai and a baby copperhead got in. My cat grabbed it, drugged it in the house to my office and threw it down on the ground. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I'm like trying to figure out some way to get this thing. And the cat just keeps messing with it. I'm just like, get away from it. But
this is what I had to deal with when I lived in northern Nevada in Winnemucca. They have what they call the Mormon crickets. These
Mormon.
suckers are about 3 inches big, and they would cover the entire roadway, and they would cause accidents because people would slide on the slime from running them over.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It always happened right at the springtime, where it would always, depending on how much snow they had, because I guess they would burrow into the ground and lay their eggs, and then when the spring rolled around, once the snow melted away, it was time for the eggs to hatch. So if we had a really wet winter, we knew there was going to be a lot of these crickets, and it's for like 2 or 3 months that they're just, out there invading everything. But they're known as Mormon crickets. I guess Salt Lake City has a problem with those too.
Why Mormon though?
I don't know, because they're in that region, the Utah, northern Nevada area.
Well, that's the Mormon capital of the United States, that area?
Yeah, that area,
yeah. I don't know too much about Mormons. All I know is we hid from them when it came to the house. Everybody shut up! Shut up! Look out the window. Wait for them to get on their little bikes, ride off. Yeah. It was summertime and they got ties and shirts on and a bike helmet and a Bible or whatever. I don't know what book they read, but they had their little bikes and they knock, knock, knock. Oh, shh, everybody be quiet. They would knock too for long because they knew he was in there. It was like, we know you're there. We're gonna keep y'all from y'all episode of whatever for a long time before we leave.
I think they have to do that for like a year or two, so they got all the time in the world to stand there. You can't go back right away.
They have to do their missionary service.
Yeah, can't go back empty-handed. Got to bring back a funk.
Yeah, I don't know what that like. I don't know what it was like. I heard that people have let them in their house, and I don't know what happens after that. Has anybody let these people in their house?
Yeah. When I lived in Nevada, when I lived in Winnemucca, there's a big community. And they just sit there and they would kind of read some of their scriptures, and then you just kind of go back and forth because obviously their book is different from traditional Christian books.
Yeah.
And but it was never argumentative. They never were pushy about it. Matter of fact, one of the things that we always found really interesting is they had these really nice indoor basketball courts. And
at the Mormon place?
Yeah.
The Mormons ball?
Yeah. They love basketball.
Dunk it. Fix that tie.
So we always go play in there. That was the best courts were always at the Mormon church.
Oh man. I don't normally get mad at these people because I know all they're doing when they bug you about church or what. I'm not a religious person at all. If you want to believe on whatever you want to believe, God bless you. But I'm not a religious person at all. I do know about the Bible. I grew up in the church, but I'm not a religious person at all. Anyway, I have my own form of spirituality. So I've never gotten upset at anybody who tried to, let me tell you about the Word of God. I never got upset except for this one time. This guy, he was just talking to me, an older guy. And that's another reason why I was upset. I was upset because I wasn't able to tell him off because he was too old. And I was like, I want to tell you off so bad. So we was sitting there talking. Everything was fine. He heard my accent. You from up north? In Florida, everybody's from up north. There's very few people you ever meet here that's born here. Half of everybody here is from somewhere else. But so we're talking, and then he asked me, he asked me about Maida. And he's like, how long you been married? I was like, we're not married. We've been together for like 19, 20 years, but we're not married. He says, don't you love her? I said, yeah. He says, well, don't you want her not to go to hell? And I said, what? He was like, yeah, you're not married. You're living in sin. She's going to go to hell if she dies. And I was like, oh, he's so, bro, I don't really know you like that, bro. What are you doing? But he felt it necessary to tell me that I was sending Maida straight to hell. It pissed me off. Like I said, I was more pissed off I couldn't say anything because he was really old. And I was like, I know you're doing what your scripture tells you to do, but come on, man, read the room, bro. You just don't tell people that you're going to hell. You sinful sinners. Anyway, that was one time where I did bite my tongue.
Memory though, so he did his job. He got it, got the data in there.
Yeah, he did his job, but I really wanted to cuss him out.
One day you'll wake up and be like,
and just be like, "Oh, I remember what that guy told me, babe. I'm gonna save your soul, baby girl. Let's get married." I don't know, man. This is crazy.
Pretty powerful to save somebody's soul,
Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy, for those plywood sumps that you made, was that something that you came up with on your own, or did you see that and it was an inspiration from somebody else? Where did that idea come for plywood sumps?
For plywood sumps?
Yeah,
they've been doing that for a while, though.
Yeah, I mean, I made them out of acrylic before. Like, I don't know. It's in my shed right now, but I used to use it on one of my tanks. It just comes down to like what materials you like working with. I get asked questions a lot, like, why don't you build it out of concrete, out of steel, out of acrylic? There's some people out there that think you can go buy a 30-foot long piece of glass and somehow that's affordable and it wouldn't weigh 18,000 pounds and all these things. So those kinds of things. But I have obviously my skill set, right? So if it's able to get the job done, if I were building something, so for example, if I were building something that was like 8 feet tall, then I would use different materials, right? It would make more sense.
I gotta ask you about glass for a fact, but no, like I saw a video on Discus Hans, and he has used. Well, I don't know if he still does it. I haven't seen a video, but an old video back like 5-6 years ago, where he was walking around his place, and they use a wooden sump system, but it has basically is a wooden box with plastic liner. That's it, But yeah, they've been using those for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can build a multi-chamber wood box out of 3/4 inch plywood really fast, and then there's no pressure because it's 12, 16 inches tall, so you don't need to do any fiberglassing or anything, and then you can epoxy paint it. It's just so easy, so cheap.
Yeah,
and plus look at the size of it. Like I built those two that I put on the 600-gallon Asian jungle. They work perfect. They're customized exactly what I want. Each one is 80 gallons, so you got 160 gallons down there, and it cost me like, I don't know, maybe 40, 80, maybe $150 to build the two of them. And I did it on a weekend, so it was, in the scheme of things, it's very cost effective compared to go try to buy something of that scale.
But speaking of what you said about the glass, I was really surprised that you use 1/2 inch glass. I know you went over the difference between tempered and non-tempered, but I'm a wary wart, and even a 1/2 inch, that's a lot of water in a 1/2 inch glass. But I mean, obviously you've been doing. Basically, I'm the type of person where people, if you tell me, I'll be like, I don't know. I got to see somebody else do it because I'm not going to be the guinea pig. So now that I've seen you do it, I'd feel fine to do it, but I would never test that theory out of curiosity.
But that's where you can just use math, right? There's a pounds per square inch of deflection that it's going to have. There's an impact resistance going to have like a shear strength. Those are concrete numbers, and depending on how you frame the glass, how you use the glass, you can run the numbers, and it's the same thing with like the floor, like this concrete floor for the addition. It actually, it's crazy. It was like almost 9,000 pounds per square PSI, per square inch, right? And
that was good.
Are you afraid that tank's gonna crush it? It's like, no, that tank could be 80 times that size, and it's not gonna crush my concrete floor.
That's actually a question I had when you was making it. I was like, okay, you had like a layer, then you had the 2x6s, then you had I was surprised that you use particle board for the bottom layer and then went on top with the. And I was like, well, I guess it don't matter if it's the bottom layer.
Well, and
it saves money.
Really, the one thing it's good at is compression. Being with heavy weight. That's why you'll see it on roofs and things like that nowadays, because you get like a high snow load on it, you know. So it's actually better than regular plywood for being squished. You know?
Oh, I see. I didn't never know that. I never knew. I've been dealing in
different building materials, like different types of plywood, different types of like whether it's particle board, wafer board, whatever, you know, cross plies, all that stuff. There's a reason for all of them to exist, right? They all have their niche for why you use them. So yeah, it's to say they use the right thing. Like with tempered, it's amazing at deflection, right? It's incredibly strong at preventing deflection, especially if you face frame it, right? So it's supported all the way around. Yeah. If you go to like a rimless tank where it's not supported in the middle, then you've got to start getting way bigger to offset that. But a lot of people, they think of regular aquariums, like 150 gallon or something, and they say, why don't you use tempered? Usually they only use tempered for the bottom panel. And they say, why don't they use tempered on the side panels? Because what's the weakness of tempered? The edge. And what is a vast tank like that? How is it built? All the pressure is on the edge on a frame. And how do people always break them? They put them on stands that are twisted. Like your stand could be like this, and the tank ain't going to break. It's not going to hold water nice, but it won't break. No. But when you twist it, you're putting all that pressure right on those, crack, right? But that would destroy a tempered panel faster than it would destroy a plate glass panel, because you're hitting it at its one weak point,
Well, I actually
stronger there, but weaker on deflection.
I've only had one tank crack on the center of the glass, and that was 100% my fault. It went a long time without busting, which was curious. I used to be into reptiles.
Well, and the reason it went as long as it did is because it was either float glass or plate glass, and so it's actually strong that way. If it were tempered, it would have broke even sooner because of the pressure on the end.
Oh, okay. I see. You're talking about on the twisted?
It's a stand that's twisted. You know what I mean? One of those corners is higher or lower than the other. You know what I mean? That's every time. Or if somebody had like a screw stick. I remember one time the fish corner, he had a 240 gallon, I think, and on his stand he had a screw head popped up, and he basically just put pressure on the very middle of the tank, and and he found it afterwards, But that's the other.
Oh, you're talking about what's his name? That he just built that?
Yeah, Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
Or he was in his current place. He was in an apartment. He might have been a 300 gallon or 240, something like that. He was saltwater predators, and he had a screw head sticking up, but he put a mat down, right? Like a foam mat or rubber mat or something. And then I think he had a flat bottom glass tank, and just that little bit of pressure on that middle point, over time, popped it, and then he found it, and that's what it was, So.
I do have a question about wood, because me and Mexicali were talking about this. Saturday, I'm gonna have Ciclet Hut on my live stream. Ciclet Hut also makes his own tanks, but he makes his tanks out of traditional plywood, not birch. And I was always I know birch is stronger, but I was always taught that traditional plywood it'll unlaminate. But you use traditional plywood on that, didn't you?
Yeah, and even the birch it's birch plywood,
Yeah.
The reason I would use, actually, the 1,200 gallons right here, they're not birch because the price went through the roof,
It's like $100 a sheet.
Yeah, just having a sanded side. Birch plywood used to be like $35 all day long, 4 by 8 sheets, 3/4 inch, So when it's that cheap, why not use it? Because it creates a lot less finish work you have to do.
And that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that you can get the roughest, crappiest external, plywood for roof sheathing or whatever, but you're going to have to sand it and fiberglass it to get a surface that's going to be applicable, or that's going to be appropriate for pond epoxy, to go on there,
So that's the reason.
Yeah.
And that's what I was. That's what I was figuring, because when I saw him do it, I'm like, hold on, wait. I didn't think you were supposed to do that, but he's been doing it for a long time now also. So I was like, okay, you can do it, but I would imagine you'd have a lot more fiberglassing to have to with knots and whatnot, and
yeah, it's just a lot more filling, sanding, filling, fiber, just more prep work, to make
So
it.
the question that I have you been able to determine roughly what the lifespan of those aquariums is going to be? Have you taken that into consideration, or are you just going to wait till they leak?
It's long. It should be longer than a regular tank. So the first one I built in 1999, and it's inside of a townhouse in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and it's still there. When that house went for sale a couple years ago, I saw the fish tank I built in one of the pictures. It's in wall in the basement. It's been used by all those people all that time. And that was the crappiest one I ever built. It was my first one ever, And unless somebody rebuilt it, then it's held. But
I know this guy out here. If you talk to these guys that work on a fish farm, they give you so much information, and they also let you know that none of this crap is new. And I was talking to him about DIY plywood tanks, and he was like I said, he's an old cat. He's up there, but he got a lot of info. He's like, they were always been around. People have been doing plywood tanks for a long time. And he said, in his opinion, plywood tanks are stronger than glass tanks.
It's like everything, there's factors, right? So my tanks are inside the house. It's climate controlled, right?
Yeah.
So they're not exposed to undue temperature shifts or excessive amounts of humidity or anything like that. If you build a plywood tank and put it in your garage and you live in Maryland, and like today it's like 18 degrees outside, and in the summer it could be 100. If you don't, you'd have to epoxy the whole damn thing, the outside, the inside, everything, So that would be a factor. UV is a factor. Is it is exposed to the sun? The sun will tear apart silicone and epoxy paint and everything. Again, there's no UV here. The climate is always the same. This room is always 75 degrees, 24/7. It's always at 47% humidity, always the same. There's air exchanger going, always moving air. So these tanks will last a lot longer than if they were outside on your exposed to the sun or lanai, whatever. The glass panels, they're all floating panels. So all they do is get compressed against silicone. They can technically move up and down, left and right. If something caused that to happen, right, they would not leak. There's no pressure point. There's big 1-inch gaps on all sides. It's not sitting on anything that's going to prevent it from moving. That's what breaks a lot of tanks is, there's nowhere to move, and something exerts force on it, right? And something's got to give. Here, the thing to give is a giant 4-inch gasket of silicone, which will just go, and we're talking millimeters here, but it's enough. So they're actually much, much stronger in that sense because they actually can flex. Even the wood, the reason the stand has the way it's built is to enable flexing. So if something were to happen, the whole tank can move and shift. As long as the box doesn't flex. The box needs to be rigid, but the whole tank can go up and down, side to side, or forward, backward, that kind of thing. It's not going to affect it.
You ever thought about putting your tanks on cinder blocks?
No, because I just have a method I use for the wood stands that I can have them any height I want. Like my 3,000 gallon it's very high up off the ground, and it's built the same way. So.
Okay.
Just extend stand.
I was curious if like you purposely built stands, and I was like, cinder blocks would have been a lot quicker, but he must be doing this for a reason. And I was like, I can't think of a reason why one would be better than the other. I figured, building the stands took more time.
I mean, cinder blocks aren't going to give you any rigidity side to side or front to back, just down, right?
Yeah.
Can't tie them together really. I mean, unless you start doing masonry work, but I built at Consolidated, we built the saltwater section. It was a couple 1,000 gallons, and we put it on the cinder blocks. But I didn't. There was no reason I would imagine somebody would push that much water over. So I mean, it was never really a worry as far as side to side. I can't think of a reason why that would happen, but yeah, I guess. I mean, it work with a lot of materials for sure.
Yeah. I just figured like that would just cut down on build time. That's just because I'm like, I know this guy taking he's doing it by himself. I was like, I built stuff by myself, and I'm looking at what you're building. I'm like, that's got to take a long ass time. Like all day, every time you have time off, you're in there.
Doing it right is the number one priority. Like however long it takes is down the list. Anyone who watch my channel know that the videos don't come out on a certain schedule. They come out when they're ready because it's based on what I'm doing. And also like the tanks, like how long did it take to build this? Like 6 months or something. It just takes what it takes. You know what I mean?
Then you have your honey-do list.
Would put 4,500 gallons of water in their house and like cut corners, right, or whatever.
Yeah.
Asking for trouble, most of the times I see on YouTube where someone's like, "Oh, this thing happened," and then they go through it, and you're like, "Well, yeah, man. I mean, you did all these things that's what should happen. You made a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean?" Even Cleveland from the fish corner again. Like he was originally going to do this one corner build, and everybody reached out to him and said, "Hey, buddy, man, don't do that. That's not going to work. That's just not going to work." And he listened to the audience, and he redid it and did the current 1300, and that 1300 is great. He slowed down. He was always going too fast. I think he was trying to just produce videos on a YouTube schedule. He slowed it down. He redesigned it. He went and looked around. He put the ideas together, and he built something awesome. And it's excellent. It's going to work. Everyone can tell looking at it. That'll work, right? There's one thing I would do differently I don't do the internal brace like that because you just turn one seam into two seams. It makes no sense. But other than that, and that's not going to hurt him because he fiberglassed both seams. Yeah. He realized he just created double work, but he did what was needed to remedy the situation. He's good. That tank will last forever. That original thing, it wouldn't. It had all kinds of problems with it, and he was just rushing it, So don't rush it. Get a good tried true design, and it'll last forever.
I've never built a plywood aquarium. I've seen people build it. I have construction background. I'm not a finisher. I'm all rough in everything. When I build stuff, it's to hold weight. It's not to make anything look pretty. So I kind of got an idea of structure, and that's why I was looking at your stuff. I was like, I'm surprised that I'm always amazed at what you do holds water. Not because I think you don't know what you're doing, is because I'm a worrywart, and I start thinking, I was like, oh, is those nails really enough to hold, and nails and glue to the pressure pushing out? Anyway, the reason why I say that is because there was this one cat about 4 years ago, and he even said he don't have a lot of experience, and he was on a tight budget, and he built the plywood tank, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is not gonna go well," and it didn't. It did not go well at all. It was so, and like the whole time he's building it, everybody, like, I know I was like this. I didn't comment because people were being really, really nasty to him, and I'm like, man. And sure enough, came field day, things just water everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone has budgets, you know what I mean? Like, that people see what I built here now, but I'm 51, I mean, I wanted this since I was 21, right? But I didn't start building it until I was 45 or something, right? Because at the beginning, I didn't have the money. And then later on, when I had the money, I was working a job where I had to travel all around the world. So I didn't have the time or location to do it, Yeah. It wasn't until I switched those things up, got the right location, found the right house, and then I could execute it. So, and what did I do in the meantime? I did a much lesser version of it, a much scaled down, just something to get by, and that's what you have to do, you just.
I got a question for you, something that me and Funk have talked about a lot of it, and I think it pertains to us married guys. Yeah. How do you get your spouse to buy into what?
Because I know I
allow you to spend all that money.
Yeah, bro. I'm telling you, I don't care how. No, she'd be like, "What the hell?" She'd go in there like, "No."
I'm just curious how that conversation went about.
Well, I mean, first of all, I already had tanks when she met me, right? I was already into it, obviously my whole life. So every grower always had tanks. Two is it's all in the basement. The only reason she used to come down to the basement was for the laundry room, and she hated the fact that the laundry room was in the basement. So I built a laundry room upstairs. Now she has no need to ever come down here unless she wants to. The upstairs of the house is much bigger than the basement, so she has everything she needs there. There's no reason to come here. Just out of sight, out of mind. You come in my house. I think people probably expect that every room in my house has got tanks. There's not a single tank upstairs, not one.
I can tell you this. Even though Maida she will never have to touch a tank. She's still gonna give a look or have something to say.
Why you need to build that?
For what? What you need all this for? For what? For what? What do you care?
Our personalities would not match.
Yeah. Oh, that. Then I tell her, like, what do you care? You don't have nothing to do with this. I mean, it's all over the place. Look at it. Why you need all that for? Like, oh my God.
I mean, when you've been with somebody for 13 years, 14 years, whatever, it's like they kind of know who you are, right? I'm a pretty persistent guy, like,
Yeah, I'm going on like 20 years with her.
Yeah, when I'm going down a path, she kind of knows, I'm going down that path.
Yeah. No, she's a Puerto Rican from Jersey.
And even if you want to call having a fish basement a vice or whatever, that's all I have, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I think.
Even building an addition onto my house for more fish tanks and all my fish tanks cost less than somebody who went out and bought like a high-end sports car or something, right? Yeah. So and I'm talking over the course of my entire life, So in the scheme of things, if somebody rationalizes it, is it really so bad? You know what I mean? It's like
that's what I say too. I'm not at the strip club.
It's like
like I'm here in the fish room, not at the strip club.
Yeah, I was going to say she's right above. I'm like I'm just in the basement. It's like,
that's exactly. That was finally what I won over my wife with. That is kind of like now you know exactly where I'm at every single moment. There's no other place I'm going to be other than in here. I mean, I'm either working outside in the yard or doing something that I need to do to the house. And when I'm not doing that, I'm in here. So you don't ever have to worry about, what's he doing? Where did he go? What, none of that.
The funny
so predictable
is YouTube actually helped me with this because in her mind, it gave it validity. The fact that the YouTube channel is big enough that she sees that some other people care about this, that there's actually something here that all of a sudden, because the rest of the world has given it some level of validity, now she does too. It's like she has a best friend. Her best friend is a wannabe YouTuber. And YouTube's not easy. It's hard. It's a grind, it takes a lot, it's all those things, right? And she's going through all those things. And her friend is like, you don't know how hard it is to get to this metric or this metric or this metric. You know what I mean? And so that, again, it just gave it validity. Oh, this is a real thing now, Nothing to do with the fish, just the YouTube part, But
so me and Biz came up with the conclusion that our women just don't like to see us happy. He's happy. Oh no, I got to put a stop to this. That's the only thing we come up with. Oh, what? You have joy without me? I'm not the cause of it? It's got to come to. Hey, and by the way, Gabriel, you try and put the smack down on Silly. How about that? Talking all that. Yeah. You go ahead. Hey, Silly, he's going to put the smack down on you. He's going to lay down the law. He's going to tell you what's what.
That's what it comes. That's the one thing that is just like time spent doing something else, right?
Yeah. You're
going to get that with anything, though. So
the fact that we have joy in something else other than them, in my opinion. That's what she don't want.
I don't even want to think to myself all the time, much less somebody. I have to have some space,
Yeah.
I think it's healthier.
Yeah. I dig it. I
do my stuff around her schedule too. Like there's a reason I do my work from 9 to midnight. You know what I mean? She goes to bed earlier than I do. You know what I mean? And and I take care of all the stuff I'm supposed to take care of. So this is my thing. So I think she gets it. But like I said, YouTube helped. It helped. That and people she respects, whenever they've come here and seen the stuff, they're like, "Oh wow, that is awesome. That's really cool." Blah blah blah. And so that helps too. That again, it's that external validity. If it's just me and her, it's like, "What are you doing?" But as soon as somebody else says it's cool, then it's cool.
Yeah. No, I get that too.
I'm always teasing her. I'm like, well, I mean, it's not good enough that I like it. It's got to be
somebody else,
your friend's husband or something. Like, what is that?
Yeah, I think with Midas her brother. Sometimes I'm tempted to be like, "Hey, Pito, listen, man, can you please tell Maida this is good, and this is good? Please tell her that. Because if I say it, it's gonna be bad. But that's because she loves her big brother, man. I can't fault her for that. But
yeah, I just want that. It's just peer group approval, that kind of stuff. I
mean, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna feel better if Funk and Mexicality says, "Hey, we like what you're doing." I'll be like, "Oh, cool." It would mean something to me, right? It'd be better than just me thinking what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, and it's not us, and not just us. It's all the people that are sub to your channel.
But I'm saying that anyone that you respect their opinion, if they give you some sort of positive reinforcement, that's good, right? You're gonna it's gonna mean something, right? I'm not gonna be sitting there like, I know it's good. I don't need you. It's like,
there are some of those.
But for most of us, we appreciate that. That's positive.
So you pretty much tapped out on room though. After you do that slim nano tank, which that's the one that I'm actually looking forward to. That slim one that you're gonna do later on in the year. I'm looking because that one's more manageable for someone like me. You know what I'm saying? The 315, that's something that I see as more realistic for something like that. The 450, the 400, the 4,500 one, that'll never happen at my house. But it's possible I would be able to do the 310 and the that nano one, the long one, because like I said, I got that 280 and I don't want to reseal it. But then I watch channels like you, and I'm like, I could make like a, I could get an 8-foot piece of plywood, have a 6-foot piece of glass, that's 2 feet worth of bog filtration. I think I could do that,
Yeah, definitely. There's things that are inspirational, They're like, there's a lot of people like, hey, I'm not going to build that, but it does inspire me to do some version of that, you know. Then there's other ones that are doable, like you said, like the 600 Asian jungle. Not even so much that someone's going to build a 600 even, but they see the combination of fish and how it works in that environment. So, like the whole, like your tiger barbs are going to kill everybody, your rainbow sharks, one to a tank, blah, blah, blah. They can see that all goes out the window if you have a large enough form factor. And it doesn't have to be 600, right? It can be half that size. It will still work just fine, So that's a very popular tank, because those are fish that everybody keeps. And like, oh yeah, here's a cool way to keep stuff I already keep, So
before I forget, snap. Hey babe, how you doing?
What were you saying?
Are you on that live stream again?
So I love my old lady. She's awesome. She's the best. Like I've been saying this whole time. You know what I mean?
You saying that?
I don't know what I would do without her. I don't know what I would do without her.
You've been fawning over this girl for hours.
Yeah, totally. So, so what was I gonna say? Damn, I forgot.
You said something.
Before I forget, you have a fish. I sent it to Mexicali. A picture. Can you pull that picture up of that fish that I sent you? I have never seen this fish. It's in your Asian tank, the barbs, and it looks like it's a torpedo shaped fish, like a shark.
Oh, probably a royal trout danio.
It's black.
Oh, maybe a ghost shark.
I've never seen that fish before in my life.
Black with
I don't know if I'm going to be able to. How do I do this? Because it's on my phone. Oh wait, I can download it.
Yeah.
The species of rainbow shark, if that's what I'm thinking of, black with white fin.
It almost looks like a red tail shark, but it's like
white
a lot bigger.
I never could see it steady. It kept moving. It's a mover.
Sure, let me see if by any chance.
Hey, life lessons. I'm never scared. I'm never scared of nobody. Never.
Wait up. Hold on. Let me do this.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
the heck are those?
That's the hill trout danio, royal trout. Royal trout danio.
That's a royal trout. I've never seen that fish before in my life.
Now I gotta check it out. Trout danio or blue spotted hill trout danio.
I have never seen that. How big do they get?
That's full size.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're actually starting to age out on me. I've had them for about 6 years and they're starting to age out. So.
Yeah, I really, really do love that tank.
I need to get more, but they're not easy to find.
See that?
Get some sometimes.
That tank that you did with all the barbs at age one, I really like it. Like, I feel the same way about that as I do Mimbuna tanks. Like, I like them in other people's houses. Like, I would stare at them all the time. But for me, I don't know if I had that. The fish that you got going on right now that I would love to have, but I would love to have more of, is your electric Jack Dempseys. When they all grow out, I think they're gonna look awesome.
Those electric blue Jack Dempseys are like the hardest fish I have to keep of any.
That's why.
They are. I mean, I have them and they're all that, but I have them split up right now in multiple tanks because 2 of them are picking on the one guy, and I ultimately want to have a bigger colony of them. But yeah. I'll tell you what, man. When you first get the selective breeding, it takes a while to build those fish up to get them to be tough. They're very weak fish.
Yeah, I actually have that's one of my best videos is on the electric blue Jack Dempsey because people are afraid of it. I do believe that they're stronger now than when they first came out. I think when they first came out, there was such a demand for them that the breeders were not being responsible and there was too much inbreeding. And they weren't slowing down and taking their time to get some new blood in there and whatnot. I think now
they first came out and they would totally fall apart. They would lose coloration. They had very short lives, 2 years max,
Yeah, their bodies would be misshapen as they got older. Their bodies would not.
You had a lot of that had the beaks, and that's
yeah. So I've seen a lot more.
They have a totally different disposition than regular Jack Dempseys.
Yeah, I made that mistake.
I have ones right now with neons. Neons. They do fine. I was any neons.
I was working at a LFS in 2000, early 2000s. And they came out when they first came out. At least available to us where we got them. And I was like, I'm going to get me 4 of them. That's what I had. I wanted to get them 4. And at the time they were like an inch long, $20. That's how much they cost. They were about an inch for $20. And, I got, yeah. So I went down and I actually worked there. So I was like, I put these to the side. So I put 4 of them to the side. And I had to pay full price on that, but whatever. I put 4 of them to the side. I came back on my day off to get them. Somebody had sold one of them. So there was only 3. I was really bummed because I got a little bit of OCD, where the number 3 was bothering me because it was an odd number. So I was like, okay, I'll get 3 of those and I'll just get a $5 regular Jack Dempsey. And I put them all in the tank, and that $5 Jack Dempsey killed those other ones so fast. It was so quick. I was so pissed. I was like, $5.
They're totally different.
Yeah.
Electric blue Jack Dempseys with the smallest peaceful community fish. It doesn't matter. They're not aggressive feeders at all.
Yeah, they're very.
Is if you have 2 males and a female, whatever the dom male is he's gonna kill that sub male every time. So you got to.
And here's the fun part that I feel is interesting. So I was always amazed that they were so docile in comparison to a regular Jack Dempsey, because usually when you start messing around with inbreeding, the fish actually comes out more aggressive. For instance, a pink Jack Dempsey was the most evilest fish Jack Dempsey I ever had. I actually had to send it to Fishy Biz, and it killed fish. It killed fish with Fishy Biz because it kept.
Electric blues are definitely the opposite. They have like no temperament.
The pink Jack Dempsey was a killer. She was so mean.
Like a red Texas. But to answer June's question, no, I never did get another wild Venezuelan female for the big boy back there. He's been spending a lot of time with the other Oscars in there, the 2 reds and the 2 bumblebees. So, but if I can find I'm kind of in a holding pattern on buying fish right now because I've got so many projects going. There's like a chain reaction getting ready to happen with these. Because I'm very close. Predator Bay 3000 is super close and the 1200 right next to me is super close. And once those go, it's literally a cascade of things that'll happen. And you asked me earlier, Funk, we sort of got sidetracked, but about after the 1200 narrow tank, is there anything else? And so there'll be a whole bunch of moving of stuff, right? And that's gonna open up a few tanks.
Yeah.
Because there's new tanks coming online, so it's gonna empty out some of the other ones as things move over. And then there's actually after that, there are a few more tanks in the future. But I think I have enough between finishing what I've started here and not even talking about the 1200 gallon, because I'm going to need to use that space to grow out marine fish for a while. I got enough with just rebuilding all these big tanks. It'll probably take me all the way through the year to get it done. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that one because, like I said, I think one that size is more doable for the average person.
Well, sort of, I won't tell you who, but I'm actually going to build a tank for somebody.
Oh, yeah?
They don't know it's happening, and they won't know until I give it to them, you know? But
you're going to surprise somebody with a DIY large aquarium?
I think it's going to be, in my opinion, the ultimate way to keep the things that they keep. And the things they keep are not like the stuff you see me keeping. They're things I like, but I don't necessarily.
But how did you get my address? Is what I'm asking.
Just go to Lakeland. I was like, "Yo, Aqua Funk," and he said,
"Oh yeah, that guy." That's a cool gift. Anybody who knows me don't expect no stuff like that. I can let you know that right now.
But I'll be interested to see how that goes down. You know, like because they keep fish in a different way, and I'm going to build this with my way, right? It's going to have a built-in riverbank. It's going to have a built-in upflow filter. All the plumbing will be it'll be super neat and clean, and it'll be turnkey, you know? So I want to see them set it up. It's completely opposite about how they do all the other tanks. I want to see the contrast, you know what I mean? But it's specifically designed for a certain type of fish that this person loves. So
that's what's up.
It's going to be interesting. It's just my own little project just to amuse myself, like to see the results, you know.
I often think about watching your videos, and I think to myself, somebody's going to do that, and they're going to forget to measure their door. They're going to bring all this. They're going to bring all this stuff into their house, and they're going to forget to measure the door. And for some reason, they might have to move, and it won't fit out the door.
Yeah.
I'm
making sure this could fit into normal situations, you know.
Yeah, I think
it should be able to hold it right like that, you know. It shouldn't be crazy.
Oh, okay.
But for the type of fish it's going to be. So for the fish that are going to live in it, it's like how that tank is to Oscars, you know.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of thing.
I got you. I'm not saying it's just a lot of stuff running through my head. Like, what would I put in a tank similar to that? It's very specific.
I have some specific tanks I'm building for myself in the future that are much smaller, but they're the same kind of deal. They're meant for. There's a couple of fish I like a lot that I don't want to keep just in a general environment. I want them in their own special environment. And, so there'll be a couple tanks for those guys. So at some point, and those will be much more along the lines of they might be. It's probably like something around a 200-gallon tank. I think it's something like 8 feet long, but like 200 gallons, kind of lower and more of a fast flowing river kind of thing. And you know, it should be the equivalent of my tanks in terms of the environment should look the same as like this. Just for these fish, you know, should be scaled properly.
It'd be great for like zebra plecos.
Well, I can tell you right now, the stuff for me is I want a colony of zebra plecos, and I want a colony of I forget their name. It's a type of Cory cat.
Oh, okay.
That I really like. They come around, but they're not easy to find, but they're just awesome.
So, do you have a video that breaks down the math of the glass per gallon, per all that stuff? Because I know I've looked around, and to be honest with you, the only place I actually found information was written on the internet. But I found multiple equations, and I feel like,
Now, there's a reason I don't do that, and that's because there's a ton of variables.
Yeah,
like a 2x4, right? If you get a white pine, southern pine, yellow pine, they have completely different tensile strength. Like one of them could be 5 times stronger than the other one, you know. But somebody would just call it a 2x4, you know. And they don't have, if you don't know what they are from the species, it's not going to tell you at Home Depot or Lowe's. They don't market them as this is the strong one. This is, you know what I mean? So
I mean, more likely if somebody was making a plywood tank, they'd go and get that number 2 stuff.
It actually falls into the category of what Father Fish always says. Like he has a method, right? And he generally says that people who fail at his method don't follow his method completely. They follow his method part of the way. You know? It's the same with this. Like if you wanted those kind of numbers, man, you would have to do it exactly. Exact same materials. Like just find that people don't do that because they go to the store and they go, well, shit, this one's a 3/4 inch or 3/4 inch thick. This is 3/4 inch. This is half the price. So I get this one. You know, it's just it changes once you do that. It changes the equation. You know, and you can make up for it with bracing or fasteners or this or that or more. Like you can take the crappiest external plywood sheathing for like a barn or something. You can sand it at all. You cannot fiberglass it. If you put 12 coats of epoxy paint on it, you'll build it up thick enough to fix all the imperfections, you know. And that's a dumb thing to do because that's the most expensive part, right?
Yeah.
Part is you want to use the least amount of epoxy and glass. That's your big money hit, right? The wood, the fasteners, that stuff is dirt cheap compared to the epoxy and the glass, you know. Even silicone. Silicone's expensive nowadays.
Yeah.
GD1 is like what, $8-10 a tube? And when you're like on my 1,200 gallon, you're going to eat up 20 tubes of that, you know. So I know you got a lot of projects going on, but as a viewer of your channel, as a subscriber, as someone who watch, like I said, I got that tank out there. I would love to see if you had. I know you don't have the time or the space really because you got plans and stuff. If somebody were to do a video and going, I'm taking one X something tank that I got off of Craigslist because it needs to be resealed, and I'm gonna make 4 tanks out of it, you know, and watch that process. I would love to see that because I feel like, you know, that would have a lot of people going like, I could do that. That is definitely doable, you know. That could happen actually because I have a shed, and the only thing in the shed is aquarium stuff. There's a wall full of glass that's 100% from free leaky tanks.
You can get them over there.
I just showed their house with my metal paint scraper. I can take a tank apart really fast. Put it in the back of my flat stack in the back of my truck, and then add it to the wall in there. So,
dude, I would love to see a video because it would be, like I said, that would be something doable for a lot of us out there. My biggest fear is wasting my money, and I think that's a lot of people's biggest fear. I mean, I have faith I could make a box, I could paint it and all that stuff like that, but because I've never seen it done in real life, you know, it'd be like, okay, hold up, I would waste my money. That's my biggest fear. But if I could see a professional, someone who's been doing this like you, it'd be like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna do exactly what that is. You know, he got a tank off Craigslist. Like there is a lot of tanks that like that's how I got that one. It was leaking, and they didn't want to deal with it.
Cichlid Bros built a tank that it's almost identical.
Really?
Yeah. He very graciously credited myself and the King of DIY for inspiration for his tank build. I think he took pieces from each whatever, but
I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's very similar to like my 600 gallon or my 750, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out because that's 1/2 inch glass. It's a 280, so it's got weird measurements. You know, it's a little bit taller.
There's also a trick too, like all of these, like so this tank is 4 feet deep, right? But that glass is not 4 feet tall. That's 3 feet tall glass. So you can, you know, the pressure's at the bottom, right? So you can build that up, take all the pressure off. You can also create, like at the top there's a pretty thick frame. That's done for a reason too, is you don't want to have your water level like right on the edge. So you know what I mean? You want to have a cushion where you can fill it up some and not, you know, be dealing with it all the time. So there's ways to take glass and only utilize a certain amount of it, right?
Yeah. I would just, like I said, I would just be worried about the amount of gallon pressure per inch of per thickness of glass. And I know like a glass that's half-inch thick, that's 12 by 12, is probably stronger than half-inch thick, 8 feet by 4 feet. You know what I'm saying? Less flex and whatnot.
Technically, it's just the height, the depth,
Mhm.
and obviously the pressure from the bottom to the top is always decreasing.
Mhm.
But there's certain measurements that when you go from 30, like you go from like 38 inches, if you go to 48, it's almost double the pressure at the bottom because you're getting a further above sea level. There's like these increments you get.
Yeah.
Pressure is not linear. It keeps getting
Yeah.
when you go down in the ocean, it like you go 15 feet, 30 is not the same as 15, 60 is not the same as 30. Yeah. It keeps getting exponentially more and more. But so if you build a tank, you could build a tank that was like 1,000 miles long and 1,000 miles wide, but only 6 inches tall. The glass would only need to be as tall as 6 inches of pressure it can hold. The only thing would be how it's braced. Because if it's really long, then you're going to have deflection. But if it was face framed, then that's 6 inches at whatever measure. Let's say it takes 3/8 inch glass. It would only just take 3/8 inches, no matter how wide and long it is. If it was face frame braced, that means it's 100% braced all the way around, and then the glass in the middle just has to handle whatever pounds per square inch of deflection it's capable of doing, right? And if you're, no matter how far, you wouldn't be creating any more pressure.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it'd be a cool videos to see a professional do so that all the scaredy cats like me who are afraid of wasting money be like, I'll only do it if I see somebody else do it first.
I mean, it would be hella ugly, but like if I built the bottom of that up like 2.5 feet and then started the glass, you know what I mean? I could even go with like 1/4 inch tempered, but
you did one of your tanks like that, and I'm be honest with you, I kind of like it. I like the being able like I have never seen it, but like at an aquarium or whatever, where you saw the fish this way, but you also had a little bit of a 45-degree angle view on them. I thought it was really neat and different. I would probably only do like maybe 6 to 10 inches though. You know what I mean? Because then you put a couple inches of substrate or whatever, it won't be that bad. But I thought it was one of your tanks is like that, where it's kind of like bloop, you can see.
Yeah. All of my 4-foot deep tanks.
Yeah.
The first foot is built up of structure.
Yeah.
So
well, I can't.
They're big tanks. Like when you look in there, there's no fish that's in that little. You can see almost. You can see like 98%, right?
Yeah.
And none of these big fish could even wedge themselves in that little 2%.
No.
You can't see.
Yeah, they would have to just be like up against the side, like underneath the glass. Yeah.
Happy fish don't do that, right? If they're doing that, you got other problems. Something else.
Yeah, there's something going on.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy. Somebody had a question. They were curious about the dimensions of the aquarium behind you.
The aquarium behind me is
33 by 4 by 4. 5 or something like that. I know it's 33, right?
33 feet from that side. You can see it keeps going that way. It is 4 feet tall and 5.5 feet front to back.
That's right.
And it's 4,400 gallons, roughly?
45.
4,500.
45. Yeah.
So where the glass is 5.5 feet. Where the pillars are in the middle, it sticks out a little bit. So it's more like 62 inches,
Babe, when we get a house, we're going to have Jeremy come down. He's in Maryland. And he's going to help me out. We're going to get me one of those. And get a whole bunch of tanks off Craigslist and just cut them down.
I like those rich guys on YouTube where they build the tank first and then they build the house around it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's insane.
The guy up in New York, like built a house for his tank.
I was actually looking for a tank builder way back when I was doing aquariums maintenance. Michael Vick, before he got busted for the dog thing, he wanted me to set up a shark tank. And he had a space, and I was like, I can't build a tank. I could probably find somebody, and then he decided to move to Georgia. That's when he started playing for Atlanta, and he didn't want the tank there. And I was like, well, I ain't going to Georgia, just hook you up with a tank. But
I remember he used to live in Southern Virginia.
Yeah, I'm from Hampton, Newport, the Peninsula.
Yeah, my undergrad, I went to Old Dominion, so you know.
Oh, ODU? All right. Okay. ODU. I did have good parties. Yeah, good parties.
Marine biology right there on the water, you know.
Yeah.
There you go, Funk.
What'd she say?
That she wants a long fish tank in the wall.
Okay. She said, y'all heard it, right? Y'all heard it.
We'll save
it. Happen.
We'll save this. We'll save the live stream. Document it.
Yep. YouTube is forever.
Those are like, so if you go for the really tall tank, like I went to the OCA this year, and I stopped by Ohio Fish Rescue, and so I have a lot of big tanks. So you're not going to wow me with just big tanks.
Yeah.
But they had some tanks that wowed me, like they're 4,400 gallon. It's taller than I am, right? You know, so that height of that tank is very impressive. That's not easy to achieve. The bracing on it is, it's massive I-beam and everything like that. That tank was super impressive. What was the other one? Oh, because of the height. But the Bellagio tanks, the 220 gallons they have, end to end on the wall. You'd think it would be the length that was impressive, but it was actually they're 4 feet tall, just like mine. But it's completely uninterrupted. No bottom bracing, no top bracing, just all sheet of acrylic. And that across a 40-foot span looked extremely impressive, in person.
I recently saw and I'm gonna be honest with you, and your tanks are super impressive. I saw these Germans. I know they're Germans because when I hit closed caption, because I wanted to know what they were saying, that was in German too. So I was irritated. Plus, I know when people were speaking German, I could hear it. They made a tank, and I really can't tell you what the dimensions were, but I know the floor of it was bigger than a sheet of plywood, and it had to have been at least 5 foot tall. The footprint was bigger than a 4x8. I know that because I seen them walking around it. I was like, that's more than 4x8. Anyway, they built a very, very, very clean. They did a lot of over extra stuff, in my opinion. But I mean, it's their house, and I'd rather go extra than less. But their center bracing was a piece of metal that was bent. It was like a U shape but long, and that's all they used for a center brace. I was surprised to see that, and it couldn't have been more than less than a quarter of an inch thick. I don't know what type of metal it was, but that's all they had for a center brace.
My that first tank I built, the in-wall one down in my first townhouse that I had, the bracing was threaded rod.
Oh, you had the all thread?
Yeah, basically I had metal over the top of the wood drilled through, and I had a threaded rod screwed on there, because for some reason, again, gotta remember this is 97. Like we had 99. We had the internet, but it was minimal, right? Like I was researching my stuff off of a thing called GARF, GARF. It was a bunch of designs for wood tanks, and not just for aquariums, but a lot of the stuff was for like building live wells for your boat and stuff like that, out of reinforced fiberglass, wood, epoxy, So I had that, and I had 2 forums, Reef Central and Monster Fish Keepers. And there was a guy named Gator on Monster Fish Keepers who built something. And he answered. I, contacted him on the forum, and he answered my questions and stuff. And for some reason, in my head, based off those conversations, I wanted something where I had a capability of tensioning it, and stuff like that. I don't know why.
Did you ever need it? Did you ever need to tighten it?
No. And it was saltwater too, so that rod would rust, whatever. I had to do this thing where I had to like staple like this thick plastic underneath it and paint it with this, like there's a paint that'll kind of convert rust back to metal, whatever. And I had to get that rod painted because the saltwater was crushing it,
It's like a black stuff you spray it on there.
Yeah, and it works really good. Yeah, it works really good. It reverses the rusting process, and it kept it good. But like, I never did that again, and it didn't make any sense. But there's.
I don't understand what
it worked fine, right? My point being is it's totally different, but it works fine. I got a kick too out of like everything I do is overkill because again, it's a lot of water and it's in my house. Like I get sometimes when people are like, "Are you afraid of black?" Like I condition all these space. There's a lot of equipment to make this. It's like it's in my house. I don't want black mold in my house. I don't want 4,000 gallons of water on the floor of my house. I don't want any of those bad things to happen.
And that's another thing I was curious about is like. I would feel better like that tank behind you. That's like up against the wall. I was like, I wonder if there's a way he can like route air tubes to get circulation back there, because I'm a mess. I know I'm a mess. You got splashers in there, bro. Like you got some serious splashers. I know peacock basses are terrible splashers. And I was like, I wonder if the water, huh?
There's serious tops on there too. So it's all covered, So
they don't. But when you go in there and do stuff, they don't splash you.
No.
I'd be worried about water getting back there.
They act differently when you put the fish in a tank like that. They just chill way the heck out. Like, and this is crazy because I had the Fogos in the 3,000 gallon. 3,000 was freshwater. They were in there for easily more than a year. And they were way more aggressive. Like into here, they just, they always beef with the Orinoco. The Orinoco had the left side of the tank, and the Fogos had the right side of the tank. Put them in here, they schooled together like they were just best buds. Somehow, this was the right size for them.
I got a flower horn that used to splash Mida because we had the tank on the kitchen counter basically because we had the weird kitchen counter where it kind of makes an elbow and it's just kind of nothing there, and I put the tank there and because the fish was so lonely, and so we put it somewhere where it would get traffic, and for some reason it kept splashing her every time she get next to the tank. It splashed her. When
I was growing out the Fogo bass in the 315, they would splash like crazy and they were all jittery and they never chilled out in there because they got used to me, but they also got bigger too. So it's like,
well, I'm glad this fish only got as big as she is. She ain't get no bigger because she bit me and draw blood.
But there's definitely a size, like a right size with a tank where a lot of the norms from fish keeping, they come from just too small an environment go away.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say exactly what I mean, like the 600 gallon, all the barb stuff goes away. Again, I don't think it needs to be 600 gallons, but I think it has to do with the depth front to back.
Yeah.
I think if you had a 6x3 300 gallon would work versus a 8x2 300 gallon, I don't think would work as well. So I think it's because I know a huge thing is line of sight, like with all aggression. This is a video I do want to make is I want to make a video about like how to mitigate like how to keep fish you want to keep and not worry about the fact that you're not supposed to keep barbs or this or that, and just talk about how the fish view the aquarium, right? So if they can see the entire thing, then that's their home, the entire thing. If their sight breaks, then now their home is constantly changing. They don't own all things at one time kind of thing. And then you have levels, right? You got guys who are top level feeders. How is their mouth shaped? How do they feed? Mid-level, bottom level. So you never see a mid-level like peacock bass really beefing with an arowana. You never see them beefing with the tiger shovel nose. Because they're all in different spaces. they're not direct competitors, but most fish are kind of middle guys. So that's where you have the most competition. So that's where you want to have the most sight breaks, but you want to have obviously clear swimming ways too. Fish don't want to feel like they're hemmed in. That's why like when a tank is deeper front to back, it changes everything. The way the fish feel, they know when they see you, they can get back away from you. And it's just, they're not even going to do it. They just know they can. And it takes away all the stress. They just chill out, And I found that to be like 4 feet is enough. If you've been able to take 4 feet front to back, that's even for big fish, it's enough. They just everything just ramps down. The aggression, the whole spazziness, it just the stress.
Yeah, I did a video similar to what you were talking about, breaking the line of sight, like the ultimate angelfish tank, a 55, but with the plants, whatever would be fake plants or real plants, whatever, make like almost like a arch where it came around the sides and underneath that middle brace of a 55, it comes forward to where there's two open areas where there's a break. Line of sight would keep angelfish aggression down. You'd essentially have two different camps, this side and that side. And I know I've had to do it a couple times where I just put a big old plant in the middle of the tank, plastic plant in the middle of the tank, just so that they stop looking at each other.
And it worked. All full African cichlids, right? 125, and it has probably like 115 African cichlids in it now because they've been breeding so much.
Yeah.
And when it was fully planted, before I ripped out all the plants to put them in the Asian jungle, 0 aggression for 3 years straight, no fatalities, no aggression, line of sight breaks everywhere. Just nothing but line of sight breaks, right? Rock formations and wood. So I took all those plants out, put it over there, and what happened? They all started fighting out of nowhere. So what did I do? I just took a bunch of driftwood I had laying around, just threw it in there, and it's all just, fighting's gone away. It's just something to hold them off until I move into the 750. Just break all those line of sights. But it was like flipping a switch. As soon as I pull this.
Yeah. I think it looks good. I know which one you're talking about. That's the one in your office, right?
I mean, it's that office is not my real office. That's just for fish stuff. But yeah, it's just in the fish room there.
Yeah. I think you called it your office
because I literally just threw some crap in there to block line of sight. They're all getting ready to move. So
I remember looking at it because I did that accidentally where I just threw stuff in there like I was gonna aquascape a tank. I had it all aquascape, hated it. It caught a leak, so I pretty much just threw stuff in another tank, and it was the best looking tank I ever had because it looked real natural. It didn't look aquascaped. It looked like a natural spot.
With African cichlids, a lot of times people get the opposite advice. They say take away any habitat, so that way they don't try to control a habitat. But the problem is just whoever is the biggest dog is going to try to control the whole thing,
But I think that's where you're talking about the size of the tank, because if you have a 55-gallon tank full of Membunas and you only have like one cave, there's going to be fighting over that one cave. So in that case, where people say take away habitat, I wouldn't agree with that. Depends on your tank bosses and stuff like that. But if you had a larger tank, you could still get away with having less caves and stuff, I think, because there was so much room.
There's a local pet store, and my buddy is friends with the guy who owns it, and it's right outside of DC. And the guy has this 180-gallon, and it's full of African cich, like peacocks and haps and stuff, all this stuff, And he always complains about all they do is fight. It's always aggression. It stresses him out seeing them being aggressive with each other. And
I got rid of my tank for that reason.
Yeah, finally I talked to him. I was like, look, this is really easy to fix. So in the back, he had a bunch of these like kind of square rocks, and I just took them and put them everywhere in the tank, standing up, just like pillars everywhere. Just pillars, all across the entire tank. And then for, 8 or 10 inches, and then the rest of the tank is open. Yeah. Aggression's gone. So all of them are just hanging around pillars, They just sit there and chill,
And I had that exact issue. So I started out as a reptile guy, started working at an LFS and learned about fish like on the fly, fresh and salt simultaneously. So I would always try to push the boundaries. Like everybody always told me, African cichlids, you got to put a lot in there to stop the aggression. And I was like, okay, well, I put a lot in this tank. Like it was a lot. And to be honest with you, I would sit next to it and I would get anxiety. And they weren't necessarily fighting with each other. Membunas just move fast. Everything they do is quick. At least in this scenario, it was no chilling, it was always choom, 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 choom.
Yeah, and positioning. Yeah, they're trying to gauge where's the food come in and where's the good place to entice a female. I'm going to find that spot. I'm going to try to dominate that spot.
Yeah. But I definitely had to get rid of that tank because it would raise my blood pressure. I'd be like, man, y'all need to chill out. Like, it's too much.
I'll put my money is with the 750 because the 750 is I'm moving in 100 something in Buna. I already have haps. There's going to be a whole bunch of haps and peacocks all in that same tank, and there's not going to be aggression. So, and it's going to be because of the size of the tank.
The size of the tank.
But the aquascape. Just the size of the tank wouldn't do it. If you fill it up, there would be aggression. It's the combination of that and the aquascape. And then, of course, the obvious stuff, right? Clean, healthy water so the fish aren't irritated. Good food so that they're not, again, irritated, feeling, anyone if you feel agitated, for whatever that reason is, you're going to take a bunch of people, put them in a room and just do something that makes them all feel agitated. They're going to get mad at each other,
Yes, sir.
No matter how much space they have or whatever.
Why is Jeff telling my old lady good night for?
Hey, Jorge, I'll be right back. She's in the bathroom real quick. Okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks.
Light a match. What about you? You know what, Mexicali? I'm still a little mad at you. You got rid of that 300-gallon.
Yeah, I'm not. Actually,
cool stuff,
the friend that I gave it to is actually did a really, really nice job. I'm just waiting for him to finish it up. He just got the fish that he's going to put in there, and I think it's going to be an Asian tank. And and he's got some barbs that he's got in there or whatever. So once it's set up, I'm going to go film it because I think he's going to do a way better job than anything I could have ever done. But it was just too much. Even the bigger ones that I have, like the 75 and I think the 75 is probably the biggest that I actually want to keep. I don't know.
So to date, the biggest tank that I felt was reasonable was a 90-gallon. And even then, because I don't have super, super long arms, you know what I mean? And I could reach my hand down to the bottom of the 90-gallon, but all this was getting soaked, right? But I really liked the amount of space it had. And like you said, 75s is a nice size tank where people could really have fun doing different stuff with different size fish.
And it's right at the edge of a tank that I can move by myself, that I don't have to wait for somebody to help me. Well,
me and Mida moved the 75. When I need help moving the 75, me and Mida could do it.
Yeah.
If empty, But the 90-gallon was a little too deep for me. And literally I was like, man, any deeper I would have to put a snorkel on to get to the bottom of this thing and damn near get in the water.
Speaking of which, have you gone swimming in yours yet, Jeremy?
Yeah, I have to from time to actually. I'm getting ready to add that big piece of wood right there.
Time to get in there, huh?
That definitely means I'll be taking a trip into the tank.
Do the fish pick at you? Do they bite at you? Are you barefoot? Do they eat a digit? What's up?
Definitely just go in my skivvies, nothing else. But they don't necessarily bite me, but they're not. I wish they were afraid. I wish they would stay out of my way. They gather around me. It's kind of weird.
Curious.
The weirdest one is the arowana. The arowana will swim like in between my body and my arm, and that kind of stuff. And the bass are annoying because they'll just come close and just like they're, like they're just I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get, it's like they just sort of menace you. You know what I mean? They treat it just like they just know me from food, right? So they have that sort of food thing to them. And I'm just like, you better not do it, man, because I was being an idiot one time. But when the Fogo bass were in the 3,000 gallon, I was I was changing the lights out. And the bass were sitting there, doing that thing, staring up at me. And for some reason, I just put my fingers down, like to the water, like teasing them. And that motherfucker hit me, and he almost broke my fingers. I mean, they hit hard.
Oh wow!
Have you had to get in the shark tank? Because those are decent sized sharks.
No, this was the peacock bass that did it.
I know.
Yeah.
But have you had to get in the shark tank?
Oh, no, not well. The new one, yeah, but they're not in there. The current one, I had the sharks jumped out twice. So I've had to bear hug the shark and shove him back in there twice. So
they really want to know what kind of quarries you're going to get for that river tank you're trying to build.
Let me look up the name if you don't mind waiting a second.
No, go ahead.
Let's
see. I think they have a wager going on as to what you're going to get.
I think he's going to get a school of Corey McAvoy's. A whole school of Corey McAvoys just swimming around in there. They call it easy Corey McAvoy fish. Long but short.
Corydorus pantalenensis.
Yeah, if they don't have a common name, I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, they're pretty new to the hobby. If they have a common name, I'm not aware of it.
They're not the Vulcans, are they? That's what everybody seems to be thinking.
What is that?
The Vulcan Corys?
Or the Vulcans?
Yeah, I guess that's what they call them. I don't know.
Well, they're from, the Pantanal area.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a newly. It's a underground spring-fed clear water part of the Amazon from Ecuador. I think it might spread in other countries too, but a lot of it's in Ecuador, and it's called the Pantanal, and its claim to fame is it has this very clear, ultra clear water, with tons of underground vegetation because there's no tannin, so the sunlight penetrates, and at any rate, there's all these new species of fish from there, and the Corydorus Pantanal or Pantanelensis or whatever is a Cory they found there. It's like red on the head and the top, and then on the sides it's like iridescent green and blue. Now that's the male. The female is like red on the top and just like green on the side.
I think I seen that fish somewhere. They called it something else. They gave it a common name like Fire Cory or something like that.
They may have. I mean, I'm sure they've given it a common name, at stores, right? But
here we go. They're these. They're kind of orange with spotting on them.
You know the middle one at the bottom row there?
That's one of them? No, that's not what I'm thinking about. That looks cooler.
Yeah.
Make it a big screen. Can you make the big screen? No, you can't.
Yeah,
now that's a male. The female is different.
To this day, my favorite Cory, and I don't even really like Corys, but my favorite Cory to this day is the Sturbies. I like those. I like those a lot.
Yeah, I got a big group of Sturbii in the 220, and they actually have bred in there. I've got it started with 6, and now there's probably like 14 of them with the babies.
I really like the contrast of that orangey red on the bottom. Yeah,
so that's a female at like peak color.
They're kind of short body.
They're like just like a Sturbii Cory.
Oh, okay.
Size, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe just the way the picture was taken that looks like it's a short body.
Somebody probably cropped it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that too is like a female is most of the time that belly's not going to be that red. It's going to be a more drab kind of a pale green. I think somebody clicked up the contrast a little bit on that photo as well.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, and what tank you getting for this one?
It's one of the ones I'm building at a custom special tank just for them.
Oh, okay.
Like the river tank.
Yeah, like whatever's going to be in there with them will just be complimentary to them. They'll be the main fish, and the other one will be the Zooplacos, be the main fish.
So is there a fish that just would get lost in your I wouldn't get that fish because it's just too little for you just wouldn't do.
Yeah, so I'm building this 1,200 gallon Amazon community tank here. It would get lost there,
But that's going to be fairly shallow front to back compared to all your other ones.
That's going to be 4 feet.
I thought it was going to be that long one against the wall?
No, that's the estuary.
I took a poll where there's a 1,200 gallon. I'm building 2 1,200 gallons.
Oh, no, I'm talking.
Okay. The other one didn't have plants, so I gave 4 options, and everybody chose Amazon Community. So it's going to be an Amazon.
Okay.
You're talking about the one about behind the saltwater tank, right?
No. That's where I'm getting confused because I'm dyslexic. So when you call the tanks by their numbers, I get lost. I'm talking about that one. It's probably right in front of your face. You don't have it there yet. There's nothing there. It's tubs. It's your nano. Yeah.
The grow out tub is there.
Yeah, that's the one that I really want to see because I think, but that one is for nano fish. That when you do build it, right?
Well, I'm actually might be switching it up because I have 2 tanks opening up on the inside. I'm thinking about doing the one that the African cichlids are in right now, the 125. I'm thinking about doing that nano fish because it's next to my desk, so I can appreciate it. I can see because it's close. I can see them. I feel like might be a little underappreciated in a big room with big stuff.
Yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. I was like, Cory cats and like a big deep tank. You know, if they go to the back, you'd never see them.
I was kind of thinking about maybe taking everything that's in the 220 discus aquarium and upgrading them to the 12-foot aquarium. So it'll be 12 feet, 500 gallon. Just make it a super discus tank, That actually would look good because they spread out a lot more. Yeah, and then maybe the 220. There's some Central American fish I like. They're challenging, but I want to see if I can, pull it off in the right shape and have some semblance of peace amongst them. Centrals? Cichlid? There's a lot of Central American cichlids that are pretty tough. They're
awesome. I'm gonna tell you one thing. If I ever make a tank like one of the ones that you have or whatever, I already know what fish is going in there. The cow cichlid. I can't remember its real name. And I've wanted it for years and years and years and years, but I just don't want to get one. I want at least 8 of them.
There's a bunch of those Central Americans that are beautiful fish, but they're all just killers, man. They're all just. Well,
this particular cichlid is a little. It's kind of I put it in a Jack Dempsey aggression.
Jack Dempsey's not bad. That's not bad.
It's a Vieja. It's a Vieja. Yes, I love the fact that none of those cichlids have the exact same patterns. What is its government name?
Oh, the scientific name?
Yeah, it's a Vieja something, right? Starts with an M or F.
Let me see if I can find it.
I love that fish, man. And a lot of it's because no one fish has the same patterns.
Marbled
cichlid.
Fenestrous cichlid.
Fenestrous, that's right. But I've always called it a cow cichlid because if you see more pictures of it, they have that black kind of looks like cow patterns. But that one I would love to have a huge tank of. That one. That would be the first fish that goes in a big tank, in my opinion. No other fish, that would be the one. Then, of course, I do other ones, but yeah.
Vieja fenestrous.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Damn, this tank is loud as hell.
I can't wait to that 125, that leaky sump, tear that thing out of there. Be done with that, be able to clean that up. It's such an eyesore every time.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna go ahead and take off. I appreciate you having me on, Mr. Count. Oh, okay.
We've been on for a couple hours now, and I don't know if Jeremy's got anything else to do. It is a weekday. I'm off tomorrow, but not everybody gets tomorrow off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have time, but whatever you want to do is fine.
All right. I guess we'll just call it a night, and I just want to say thank you to the both of you for joining me tonight, and also to everybody that joined us this evening. And well, thanks. I appreciate it. You guys have been coming out and supporting me particularly, and I just can't say enough. Thank you. To all of you guys. And I really appreciate the super stickers and super chats that I had tonight. And we'll see you guys.
Super what? Chat. You didn't say chat. You didn't say chat. You said shats.
Shats.
Super shats.
The super chats. It's my accento that's coming out. But with that, I just want to say thank you guys, and we'll see you guys soon. And Jeremy, thank you so much. Thanks for hanging out. So we'll catch you guys on the next one. Let's go.